All right, fellas, what's happening? Tuesday night, going live. Here we are. Man, whatever. Need a new cord for my webcam. All good, but back on the FaceTime HD camera. But listen up. We're gonna talk about tips and tricks to score you big points at USS Nationals. Now, heads up, if I got to run off and take a leak, I am 2 gallons of water in today because I'm doing my water cut protocol and process. So just bear with me, guys, okay? All right, so what I just kind of want to do is go through event one by one. You know, there's a full seminar inside clubstrongman.com at the very top pinned tab. So if you want to, like, get a little deeper into this, that's where you want to go. But I'm just going to kind of go over some things that are not really things that most people would think about on how to approach this. Some ethical, some not. What you choose to do is up to you. So I have this much water left to go today, and then I'll have had 8 liters. All right, so event number 1 is the max axle. Let's pick the worst marker to start. Axle, all right. There we go. And the one thing that I think you can do that can actually interfere and with other people and get yourself better points and placings is kind of jockeying a little bit and telling people to maybe go for things that you think they shouldn't go for, or just kind of talk in the backstage, be like, what do you think you're going to go for? And, you know, maybe get some number into their head about like what they should do. So for example, a lot of people are going to go into this wanting to PR, really wanting to do it. So like maybe you just sort of play with them and say like, hey, you know, hey dude, I know you're talking about getting 285. Man, you should just take a big swing at 300 for this. Totally unethical to do this. However, you know, you're kind of taking a risk because if they hit it, obviously that's more points for your opponent. But if not, if they miss, they don't go for 285, which they probably had, and they go for 300 and miss, you know, then they are dropping a lot of points, whatever the gap is, wherever you are. Maybe you're above them, maybe you're below them. It's just going to work out better in your favor. So I'm going to say read and talk to the competition, okay? Now, that being said, I don't think that you should really be basing your numbers off these things. You should be you know, going with your plan. Again, let's go back into that full seminar. We talked about making attempts. I also have a video on this YouTube channel. It's called Strongman Success Strategies Max Attempts. All right. So if you want to like get a full deep dive, that's like 30 minutes of me talking about the theory and strategies that you could and should use for maxing out something at a competition. So go take a look at that or shoot me a DM. All right. So, but read and talk to your competition, like have your plan and sort of figure out where you need to be. Because like I have a max log on Sunday in 5 days. I know the numbers that I want to hit, but I'm going to sort of see where my competition is, right? There's going to be some guys that are going for some real huge numbers, okay? So I'm like not going to be in that big upper echelon of the max outs. I will be kind of mid-pack for this one, just realistically. So I, knowing that, maybe would just like save a little energy on my last attempt. Like if I hit a PR, you know, maybe with some room left in the tank, but I know like, shit, man, I want to go up 10 more pounds, but the guy ahead of me is opening up 30 pounds ahead of me, then it makes no sense points-wise for me to actually like make that attempt, right? Just kind of think about these things. Like, you know, yeah, it's cool to PR. Yeah, it's good. You want to lean into it. Good energy and good momentum when you can, but I think you're setting yourself up for bigger success if you have that opportunity to get fine points and then conserve energy, because it can be pretty taxing for these guys to make like really big attempts. So that's actually a place where you might want to just entirely skip your third attempt if, again, the gap between you and the next guy is something like absolutely monstrous. It's my webcam shutting off because it's not connected. Anyways, so I just really think, just like thinking strategy wise, don't go for that third attempt if it's doesn't get you any more points. Now, there's a lot of people in all these divisions that could be totally not applicable to you, but just really kind of strategize based off everybody else. All right, number 2, I'm going to come right here. Boom. Deadlift 4 reps. Now, the biggest one that I think that you got to go for here, and this is true with any sort of rep out situation, is, one, obviously play to your strengths, but if you're in this range and capability where you're going to be able to get multiple reps, you don't want to go to failure straight out the gate. So, like, you have messed up if you are repping out, if you're doing reps, and then you get to, let's say, 6 or 7, and it's a big grind, it's a big fight, okay? That is just no good because you want to maximize the reps you can do in a minute. So if you instead were to do like a set of 5, take a 10 to 15 second rest, then you could knock out 3. Take another 10 to 15 second rest, then you could knock out another 2. I may or may not be using that same strategy on Sunday. I am using that strategy. I'm going to stop just short of where I feel like, okay, the next one's going to really hurt, or the next one's going to be a struggle bus. So let's just breathe for a second and then, get back into it. Like, even if, I wouldn't say like go ahead, strap on strap, but like you should know like if you're good at that or not. But just know that you're not really trying to totally max out. Now on Axel, I went over this in the seminar as well, is you need to make sure that you are centered on the bar because you do not know, well, we just don't know right now what type of axles these are. Sometimes axles have no markings on them whatsoever. So maybe that's something, what I might do if I were there, going up doing a max axle deadlift is if I had time, I might take like a little piece of chalk and like measure it out and like mark a little center line for me so that when it's time, to step back and strap in, like I know I'm centered. So I do certain things, like if I have, a deadlift bar, this isn't like exact science, but, I'll take my hands like all the way to the outside and I'll just stretch my fingers and pinkies out like this. And then I'll just bring them together like so. And most of the time that puts me in the center. So if I were just to like do this, my board's too wide, but let's say I was all the way wide on the bar here. I'll just come there. There's my center where my thumbs met. And that's how I would line myself up. So it's really going to screw you and waste a lot of energy if you set up like off to the side, deadlift uneven. You just want to avoid that. So do not make any like kind of mistakes that are things you could easily overcome, right? So max axle, that's another one. I also, again, like borderline some things that are ethical, unethical. It's supposed to be dead stop reps. I would maybe skirt the line a little bit if you're somebody who really has to fight for like a lower amount of reps, okay? My nutritionist, Coach Clark, everybody's been roasting him because he was doing some bouncy deadlifts at the bottom. So he would, while maintaining tension, would come down, kind of get a little bounce on the ground, and then on that, like, you're coming down, touch, it's a little like soft come up, boom, and then back up. So it's kind of hard to explain exactly what I mean without like giving you a full demo with like a deadlift bar, but maybe you see what the judge in your lane is doing ahead of time, and you decide if you can get away with 1 or 2 of those, right? Like every judge is different. Like this is the human element in strongman, even though we have the rules of this, like, hey, it's supposed to be dead stopped at the bottom. Maybe you can get away with 1 rep of a touch and go. And this is just, again, by watching what people are doing in front of you is going to tell you whether or not that's the right approach and the right strategy. Maybe, again, just like for all things, maybe on like a axle lockout, your judge is very lenient, right? Like a lot of times on overhead presses, like Mitch Trooper, people hate Mitch Trooper's lockouts, but like too bad he gets down calls. He plays the game because he knows what type of lockout the judge is going to give him. Right? We all know, like, we should have arms extended, head through for this lockout. The way I'm looking at you right now is how we should lock out. But sometimes, I'll show you from the side here, you can be here, which is obviously not erect with your head forward, and the judge will give you the lockout. So that's like another thing on axle where you might want to like gimmick that a little bit. And if you have a good like reach and hold overhead and you can just kind of tip your head through and give eyes on directly, eyes at the judge, then maybe they give it to you when you actually only pressed it 90% of the way. So you never want to like go to those things as your first resort, but we've all been there on a press where we're like fighting and fighting and fighting. And like, oh my gosh, I'm like so close. I just don't know if I have the tricep strength to lock it out. And some people, if they just come a little taller and look through, they get away with it. So, you know, that's a last resort thing. And similar to the deadlifts, you know, if you're fighting, your knees are a little soft, but you can like pull your shoulders back and look at your judge, like you just might get it. Look, it happened at OSG. If you want to go back and look at, you know, some of those deadlifts on that deadlift ladder, I'm not gonna like. It doesn't matter which athletes were doing it, but it was Nick Best, horrible judge, and that lady from Australia, also like weird, not very good or consistent. They were really rather generous with some of these down calls. It's crazy, but it's because the people looked them right in the eye and they just like held it with conviction as if they knew they locked it out. So you have to remember you can get away with those things sometimes, and you'll know kind of for sure when you look at how your judge is acting ahead of you. Now, never, ever again, never, ever abandon your like good, solid go-to technique and rely on that, but like it can't happen. So, all right, that's a little bit on deadlift. I thought I was going to make more notes. I'm not really, to be honest. 3, I forget if 3 is the carries or not, but like let's just say the farmers and sandstone. For one, I would just be chalk bathing all day long. I'd just be chalking up my shirt, my forearms, my hands. You know, maybe if you know that like it goes better for you to tape your forearms up, put some tape on your forearms to help with that sandstone carry, right? Other things as well, like for some people, if your grip is a problem, having a really tight wrist wrap on will like clamp your wrist into position. So this is good for like a heavy hold or something, but it's like a really fine line where you don't want to do too much because it could break away from your grip endurance. But if you are quick with a weaker grip strength, what you could do is like get into like a claw position, put your wrist wrap on, and it's going to lock your hand into place. I mean, if you squeeze right below your wrist right now as hard as you can, you're going to feel that it's, you know, harder to extend your fingers out. So we're just doing exactly that. We're wrapping our wrist wrap up tight if you have grip problems. Now, if you're taking that over to the carry, just test these out. We still have enough time to test it out in training where maybe you just like strip the wrist wraps off and then you go onto the bag real quick. Or maybe you don't need to, but like just think about these things. You could also just do really, really, really tight tape and have a similar effect. But again, we're kind of playing a fine line here where we don't want to interfere with like your grip endurance and maximize, you know, both of these carries. Things that are going to be big mistakes at competition. One, people just starting too fast, right? This is similar to like people strapping in on the deadlift or people rushing their technique. People are going to get this go command and they're going to just like, boom, spit out the gate and have like a whole bunch of instability and wobble when they're moving. I guarantee you that this is going to happen. So I just like invite you again, if you've ever listened to like anything that I've talked about with carries, whether it's a yoke or farmers or sandstone, sandbags, so this applies here, is that like I truly, truly believe that if you get the first 5 to 10 feet right, that's going to allow you to be in top speed for longer, right? A lot of people think that they have to start as fast as possible, but you're more prone to mistakes and errors by starting fast just because of the heavy weight that you're using. It could swing. You could get a less than ideal like pickup on the handle or the bag. But if you just take a fraction of a second to make sure that you have started correctly, you're going to be able to accelerate nice and smooth and then do your run in a good controlled fashion at top speed. So just remember that, especially for the sandstone. This is going to trip up a lot of people just picking it up, boom, and getting it in the right position. It's tough. You do need to really get like a nice, in my opinion, a nice lean on it. I would be using my belt, so I would have a little bit of like a belt shelf, and I would just create a little, what they call the like belt boner, where it's in with the loop, right? So I have a little shelf. Even if I was holding it up nice and high, if it sank a little bit, it would still like come down and have some support on that belt. This is another thing where I don't think it's in the rules. I looked at it a little while ago, but I would just try and do it anyways, right? Like that shouldn't really be in your way if you're, picking and lapping a stone, because you come here, there's still a little bit of space, pull it into your chest, get it above that mark, and go. Just again, like little gimmick things, belt boners, like hard belt, put it above so it can rest on there and you don't have to squeeze it into your arms as much. And then just like with this third one, like very simple, make sure you're finishing where you're supposed to. Cross the line all the way. I don't know if it's the tip of the handles or the entire handles, but there's just no excuse at all to mess that part up. You got to run through the line and have a quick transition. You also need to be paying attention on the farmers, how much of a slide that these handles have. They're all different depending on plates, manufacturers, fabricators, whatever. So just watch how these handles are sliding as you drop them, because like maybe you have the perfect run, right? But if you drop them and they slide real like quickly, real aggressively, like super smooth on the floor, they might maybe, that could clip you in the ankle or something, or you could trip over them. Like this just kind of happens. There's 520 people sign up for nationals. I guarantee you at least 10 of them are going to trip over the farmers making this like switch over. So it's just another thing where you should watch people doing this, see how they dismount, for lack of a better term, from the farmers, and then jump into the sandstone. So the big theme that we're getting across here is that you can pick up a lot of data by seeing how other people do this. Now, if you're first in your division, watch the warm-ups. Just be very attentive and study this and try these things out for yourself. Again, with like the sandstone pick, with the way you're picking up the farmers, the way you dismount and release the farmers. Just kind of watch that slide, because it's also a different approach. Is if you drop the farmers and they don't slide whatsoever, then you just need to be ready to like drop and maybe like jump out of the way or something. But I can't really tell you that because I don't know anything in depth about what is Snake River fabrication. So you just have to see these things for yourself. All right. Now, number four, we have the rope situation. Arm over arm. Right, like that. Arm over arm and drag. Okay. This is another one where I highly, highly, highly recommend watching people do this, because we still don't fully know or believe that it's going to be a heavy pull, right? What I think is going to happen, but don't hold me to this, is that this is going to be a pretty light feeling pull, even if they have these rubber mats on there. So what we would like to do then, in my opinion, is keep the tension in the rope as best as possible, and let's use our arms, big arm strokes like this, and we're not doing that big heave, leg drive, heave, leg drive, heave. We don't want to do that. Instead, we actually want to pull here so that we can keep the sled moving the whole time. If we do that big truck pull type motion where we press with our legs, pull, and big back extension, like that's very, very powerful, but the rope's going to shoot all over the place, and you're going to spend so much time just like pulling the slack and quick, where you're not even moving the sled whatsoever, that it is going to be much slower. Case in point, this is proof. This same thing just happened at the Arnold Pro-Am this year, where with an arm over arm pull, the sled was very light, and the people that did this quick arm pull, arm over arm, were the most successful. All right, even over many skilled veterans who were loading this up super heavy and like knew how to pull heavy weights, it didn't matter. The quick arm over arm pull was the play. Now, again, watch your competitors go before you. Another thing that I think is really important, I got a shout out to Jessica Yates, my client who's doing the Masters 132. Just nice, smart little insight. She was talking about on her transition, right? So you're going to pull this in. think about what direction you're feeding the rope. If you're feeding the rope to the right, then that rope is in the way for your transition. So that means you should probably hop up and go to the left. So just start thinking about these things. I think that was really smart, really brilliant of her. And then also think and see if you can, whatever's going on with the sled, I don't know for sure, but if you can pull and it pulls hard up against like a board or a block or something, see if you can like use that to pull yourself up. Or if there's a board in front of you that your feet are set on that's really nice, like can you do like a little sit up and like pull yourself up into position, and then to another level, if this is on yokes, which they have said it's like a yoke setup where you're pulling arm over arm, if the yoke bar is really high or it's low enough for you to duck under, maybe just going straight through is the play. You just like hop up and like boom, scoop, come to the other side and start pulling instead of going around. You know what I mean? But see if there is any sort of advantage or way that you can set up the straps that seems faster. There's going to be people trying all sorts of different things. And again, it's just like conceptually, I can't really tell you what the best one is going to be because I don't know. But people are going to find out little ways of like the way they stack the handles or the way the handles are set in the back. I just don't know that's going to be the best way to do this. Now, on the arm over arm rope pull, one thing I would recommend to you is to use liquid chalk, right? That's going to help your grip and it's going to stay on a little better than the powder chalk. If you have powder chalk on, which can work pretty good, every time you pull, like it's going to be a strong grip. It's like as if you were clasping your hands where the powder just shoots off. The same thing's going to be happening here, but liquid chalk sticks a lot better. That's why I like to use it at competitions. It's just a little more reliable in the long term, especially for these sandstones and stuff. Like I think that works better overall on your skin at least than the powder chalk. So just watch what people are doing. Again, I keep saying it, but it's really important. You're going to identify patterns that are good. Also, I'll be there. So if you want to come ask me, hey, what do you think? I'll probably have a pretty good idea at some point early on what's good and what's not. I'm helping Friday, and if I can go hands-on any of the equipment, then I'll do that. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll get back to you on that. I just had, boom, nice light bulb. Anyways, all right. Number 5, sandstone, over bar, okay? Sandstone over bar. All right, so the one thing I want to say, like tactically, sandstone over bar, is it's the last event. People want to go all out. Just do not lose your form. You always want to make sure that you're loading as high as possible, but don't fall into the trap of looking at where your crossbar is, right? Because if you're looking at your crossbar, let's say it's right here, this level. Here, if I'm coming up, that stunts the range of motion that I can get on this because my head and chin are down. Now, instead, if I just know and believe that my crossbar is right here and I extend up, then my chin and head's out of the way, I'll probably put more power, get a bigger extension into it. So you just really need to remember this because, listen, adrenaline is going to be high. Fatigue will be high. You'll be feeling all sorts of things, but you don't want to rush or just like have competition jitters and mess it up because like one big miss out the gate or even just like halfway through is going to really drain you and zap you after all this other stuff throughout the competition. So really, really important. And now again, like this is a good time where you need to test out in your training if you are if you want to use tape on your arms, if you want to wear gloves, if you want to use chalk, liquid chalk, if you want to chalk up your shirt, if you want to use a Cerberus grip shirt, I would probably recommend the grip shirt. Honestly, I think that makes a pretty big difference on these sandstones. What shoes are you going to wear? Do you want to get some heels that give you a little taller lip so you can extend and come up, right? Like it sort of depends. I have found that actually I don't like to use like some like big heavy work boot or something as much because I just like it doesn't feel as dynamic as I want it to be. I want to be able to move and extend and like explode a little more. So I'm doing lifters. I have a keg load over bar. I'm using lifters for that. It's just kind of how it shapes up. But whatever equipment that you can use to the best of your ability, you should use it. I mean, your knee sleeves, your grip shirt, again, your belt, same thing I was talking earlier about making like a little like belt shelf. You can definitely use that and get away with it on the sandstones, okay? Especially if this is like heavier for you. One of the things that happens is once people get into their lap position, right, the bag slips down. But if you have something hard here to reinforce once you get into your lap there, you squeeze in hard, you just have like an extra level of security that's going to prevent the bag from slipping down, meaning you will have to move it less distance to go up and clear the bar, right? So just all these things, we still have time to try this out in training for a couple rounds, and try these out in like your warm-ups and stuff too, so you're not just jumping into it in your top set. You can get more good technical rounds just from your warm-ups with the intention of this stuff. Now, also just things to consider. We're down in Florida. I think Sean's in here. But it's hot in here, guys. It's hot, 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 hot. There should be a little climate controlled in that Expo AC hall that we're going to in Iowa. What is the Energy Center? Whatever it's called. But you just want to consider like how you are going to respond in that climate, right? So if you're somebody whose body typically runs warm and you think you're going to feel pretty cold in that environment, you need to plan ahead and make sure you bring a sweatshirt. Or like on the other end is if you're somebody that sweats all day long, Sean Fennelly, sorry, dog, you sweat all day long, soaked in sweat from the moment you start existing. You need to plan ahead to maybe have some like sweatbands or things like, headband, things that are going to prevent you from making errors. Like what's going to happen if sweat gets in your eye and you're partially blinded? Like that's a disaster. So if that's you, just plan ahead. And I even think it's important to have some backups. So if you, if you just have sweatbands and headbands and all that stuff with you, just pack them. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe you do. Okay. It's good to have a towel with you. It's good to have extra shirts, underwear, all of that stuff. You just don't want to like get caught up, up the creek needing something and you don't have it, right? Especially game day. So pack your bag like all the way. It's just kind of now just getting over like total things for the competition, chalk, shoes, extra clothes, like all that stuff, your belt, your sleeves, all that stuff. Make sure you got it. Just again, saw this awesome quote inside Strongman Club, clubstrongman.com. Aaron said he had a coach who said, well, you can't get any stronger, but you can get a lot weaker by making stupid mistakes. So however that comes up to you, whether it's, writing down everything, journaling, putting things in your notes, making a note on your phone. Like, I don't know, man, just like make a big list, check it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times to make sure that you're not making some dumb mistake. Because again, chances are there's 500 plus people signed up for this competition. If 10% of them make a mistake, that's 50 people making a mistake. We don't want it to be you. So, all right, guys. Sweatbands were a game changer, dog. Telling you. I know. Right? Especially when you need to grip stuff, when you need to hold on, when you don't want sweaty hands, when you got to load here. So just be careful with something like this, though, because we don't want like a nice soft cotton fabric on our forearms when we're trying to get like a good hard friction. But like you just got to know these things. Towel off, dry the hell off, or if that's a problem, wear a bunch of tape on your arms. Okay. So plenty of time on this. If you have any questions, shoot me a message inside clubstrongman.com. Hit me up on Instagram. We're going to have a few more of these before Nationals, but I'm going to see you guys out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Iowa. Oh, yeah. Cedar Rapids. Nice. And then Atlantic City, New Jersey next year for 27. So sweet, guys. All right. Have a great night. I appreciate you tuning in. Hit me up anytime with questions. Stay strong. Have a championship night. Peace.